Prologue. And what do you wish for most? Asked the labyrinth weaver to pious Melanthios from atop her rock. When the son of Heva said it was to be lord of the spires, she had this to reply. Who then will you rule for, the living, or those whose deaths have brought you here today? From the Hereticon of Saint Thaleia, Book 16, verses 8 through 9. Hamok had never liked the dark, yet here he was, going back into it. First the shadows gulped down his foot, then they swallowed his knee, then half his thigh. Then the door creaked shut behind him, cutting off the last lights of a long summer twilight. He was alone now, alone save for his small clay lamp as he descended into the earth. Damn it all. Hamok cursed each steep, sloping step as he delved into the dungeon proper. Damn it all, damn it all. Built into a natural ravine beneath the walls of Green Navria, the royal dungeon was a twisted, conniving thing, only made barely tolerable by centuries of use. At certain parts, the wall coiled like a morose serpent. In others, they pressed so close together that Hamok feared the stone might come alive and crush him beneath its walls. 3 years, and he still wasn't used to it. Just after the most narrow part, the pit suddenly opened up. The chamber's high ceiling pocked with sky wells. Through them peered the two moons, their gazes patronizing compared to his puny blindness maker. In their gloom, he could see it all now. The stone walkways lining the walls above, the oubliettes below, the iron-barred cells lining the walls, each empty save one. Serves him right. Hamok descended to the lowest level and approached the farthest cell on his left. It's a siege. Did he not know what would happen? They had found him sneaking around near the jailhouse at the darkest hour of twilight. First he had fled, then come quietly once Hamok, Ninios, and the rest of the crew had him surrounded. Got the snooping sickness, have we? Their captain, a heavy-set and hook-nosed man named Magon, had teased. Only cure for that is the pit. A couple days in there will be bound to clear your head, and if that doesn't work, there's always the lashes. I'm afraid it won't come to that though, my friend. You already know why you're out after curfew, isn't that right, spy? When the man remained silent, they had pulled off his hood to find some sullen-eyed, tangled-haired nobody. It was only after dragging him into that farthest cell did they notice his hands. Under his gloves, they were ghostly white, like the greater part of each had been dipped in a mix of chalk and milk. Only 3 of his fingers were unmarked, 2 on his right and 1 on his left. For that surprise, Magon had let him keep his dingy brown robe, throwing him into his cell with naught else but a clay bowl filled with well water. Let's see if he uses it to open his wrists, Magon jested cruelly as they departed. Maybe he'll think that better than what'll happen elsewise. Be the end of our troubles at least. One of them, Ninios had pointed out, were still under siege. Not our problem, Magon had bellowed. Those Norian pigs haven't a chance to breach our walls while King Hormisdas is still in the field. Besides, it's only a matter of time before our allies come and wipe the smiles from the faces of Tychon Otho's curs. Isn't that right, Hamok? I sure hope so, Hamok had muttered. That had been 4 days prior. On each evening since, key in hand, Hamok had gone down into the pit to drag a confession from the man's lips. Each evening he had come back denied, falling asleep in his jailhouse bed, hoping that on the morrow he'd know the right thing to say. Corpse hands! Hamok yelled the name which the guards had come to calling him. Ready to talk now? As with all previous nights, Corpse Hands didn't say a word. He hadn't said any word, not since they had found him out after curfew. Tonight he didn't even bother moving until Hamok was standing right in front of him, the only thing separating them a wall of iron bars and the power of evil men. Ready to talk? Hamok repeated. Corpse Hands looked up with sullen brown eyes. He's alive. At least there's that. Look. Hamok's grip tightened around the keys. This is the 4th night. If you don't talk now, they're going to have you hung. By your feet, I'll bet. Over the walls, so you can be a warning for all to see. If you tell us what you were doing out, they might only take a hand. Or a foot. Corpse Hands blinked once, his eyes focused as a hawk on the keys in Hamok's grasp. Oh, these? Hamok jangled them slightly. I would if I could, my friend. Corpse Hands blinked again. You're right, Hummock sighed. It's not fair, is it? If you die because I couldn't persuade you enough, I'm sorry. Corpse Hands shifted around in his seat against the wall. To Hummock, he almost seemed to be laughing. You're a funny fellow, you know that? Hummock remarked. 4 days and still not a word. It's not like you haven't got a tongue. Corpse Hand's silence was almost deafening. While endured, the pit's hue slowly deepened as the crescent porphyry moon yielded to its gibbous and alabaster mother. Hummock put a hand up against the cold iron bars. Who are you, really? A man of no consequence. What does that... Hummock's eyes went wide. Wait, did you just talk? Corpse Hands nodded, his words as thunder. Your mind does not deceive you. So I would hope. Hummock allowed himself a smile. Does that mean you're going to confess? In time. Perhaps. And that accent, Hummock noted aloud. You're not Navrian, are you? We weren't thinking you were, regardless. Corpse Hands raised an eyebrow. We? You know what I mean, Hummock sighed. What is your name? By the sound of it, you're not much older than myself. 30, maybe? My name is of no consequence, Corpse Hands repeated. 1,000 kingdoms could rise and fall without someone of my sort being born again. That doesn't make any sense. Corpse Hands shrugged. To you? No, really. Hummock crossed his arms, the keys in one hand rattling slightly. If you truly were someone of no consequence, wouldn't it be the other way around? That 1,000 of you would be born for every king? Kingdom, not king, Corpse Hands corrected. A man such as I, so long as they live a life without recognition, is of no consequence. And why is that? Take this beloved city of yours. Corpse Hands' eyes pointed up towards the ceiling. Green Navria, jewel of the river Emervid, and second daughter of Navrion's fields. How many times has it been captured in the past? 4, 5 times? 7, I think, Hummock admitted. And, by the grace of Orphea and our rightful king, I won't live to see the 8th. Just so, Corpse Hands continued, in those 7 times it has been captured, would you call the first man over the walls of little consequence? Of course not. What if they then died and their name was not immortalized in song, nor in writing, nor even in memory? Would they still be of consequence? Well, I guess not then. Hummock's hands fell to his sides. If no one remembers him, it wouldn't matter if it was him or someone else. I would think so too. Corpse Hands crossed his arms. There was only one man first over the walls during the 7th capture of Green Navria, or of blue or red Navria, should those things come to pass. But if we remember them not, how could we ever say they were ever of consequence? You've got me. What if, Corpse Hands went on, instead of soldiers, we speak of sculptors? If a sculptor makes 100 statues of 100 gods and has them put in temples all across the land to be adorned with garlands and paint and scented oils, then would that sculptor be of consequence? Certainly, yes. What if, for each of those statues, there was an equally talented sculptor who could have made any number of them instead, but through anonymity or sheer bad luck, they were instead passed over for commission? Would they also be of consequence? I wouldn't think so, no. So therefore the first sculptor is only of consequence because they were recognized. Yes, but what if they were instead forgotten? The statues would still be there, as would 100 sculptors who are ready to outdo them. I guess so. And then, in time, the first statue would be forgotten. Yes. So then you would say someone is of consequence no matter the rarity of their skill, if only they are recognized. Where are you going with this? Hummock asked. Corpse Hands looked up, and for just a moment his brown eyes shone with the red-gold glow of true orichalcum. I'm simply trying to get you to see things from a different point of view. How is the siege going up there? Well enough, Hummock admitted. Word in the city is that Hormizdas is massing to the east and plans on attacking the Norian Empire's camp before dawn. If that fails, we have plenty of supplies to last until Pharnaces arrives to relieve the siege. Are you sure about that? Hummock sat down across the bars from him. Why wouldn't I be? Corpse Hands shrugged. Way I hear it, Tychon Otho is a shrewd man. Hummock spat. And a coward. Yet would not a coward know how to capture a city by guile when arms might fail? Let them try. The summer evening is a bane to spies. Corpse Hand's eyes scanned the walls of the pit. So I have gathered. So you admit that's what you were doing? Corpse Hand's laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound, yet ointment smooth as the rest of his speech. You seem to be in an awful rush to get out of here. No. Hamak shook his head. I've got plenty of time. Corpse Hand stared at him. Really? Yes. Corpse Hand raised an eyebrow. Hamak sighed. Was it that obvious? Corpse Hand shrugged. What ails you, friend? A woman. Hamak's eyes found only rough stone. Maya. I'm supposed to meet her later tonight. His voice trailed off. I understand. Corpse Hand shifted around again. You hoped I would cooperate as to not be late. Reasonable enough. I think so too. But tell me, Corpse Hands went on after a short pause. That is not everything, is it? It was Hamak's turn to pause. It isn't, he finally admitted. What, then? Hamak looked away. I've made a promise I don't think I can keep. Silence passed between them for a time. I love her. Hamak found his words filling the void. She's beautiful, kind, has a way with words, much like you. Many thanks. And, Hamak continued, more than that, she likes me back. And you fear something will happen if the siege goes poorly. She does. And you do not? Hamak shut his mouth. Corpse Hands nodded. You say you knew a way out, only you do not. The gates are closed, the riverway's barred. The jailer's eyes went wide. How? From the folds of his raggedy brown cloak, Corpse Hands pulled a set of vitiligo-stained fingers. I, too, have sorrowed in the pursuit of knowledge. Revelation froze Hamak's tongue until epiphany loosened it. You? The man's fingers scratched his tangled chin. As I hear it, the river Emravid hasn't always passed Green Navria to the south. Centuries ago, it passed to the north, and a series of underground waterways connected its bed to, well, this very chasm, I suppose. You're saying there's a hidden passageway that leads from here under the city walls? Is that why you're snooping around the jailhouse? Hamak's eyes narrowed. You were looking for it, weren't you? Not for the reason you suspect, Corpse Hands replied. I came to the city looking for a rare scroll in the royal library. When the siege began, I, being a foreigner, was trapped and began also searching for a way out. So you're no spy then? As in someone who sells secrets for profit? No. Did you find the passage then? And if I did? Hamak found the keys in his hand. I'll let you out. Tell me where the passage is, and I'll see where it leads. Then I'll come back with Maya, whatever money we can spare, and we'll flee the city together. Corpse Hands chuckled. What a fine turnkey you would make then. But tell me, what then? We'll take refuge in the Norian camp. He tried to make it sound certain. A brave man you are, Hamak. Corpse Hands shuffled around his spot once again. I thought word was Hormistos planned on attacking the camp before daybreak. Even if we take for ourselves a Norian dawn, what makes you think Tychon Otho will not have you and your sweet Maya butchered for desertion? It won't come to that. Although the prisoner's eyes moved, his lips did not. Where's the passage? Hamak demanded. Corpse Hands raised a pale finger and pointed to a nearby wall. From those bricks I've oft felt a chill wind. Sometimes the wind takes the form of a rat. You mean here? Hamak feigned indifference as he rushed to the section of wall and pressed his fingers against the cold stone. When Corpse Hands said nothing, Hamak pressed his weight against it and felt it give until one brick, then a quick second, toppled noisily to the ground. Full of silent terror, Hamak turned back to his prisoner. You think they heard that? Corpse Hands shrugged. I did, Hamak. When Hamak did not hear anyone coming, he began carefully pulling the wall apart, until in time, all that remained was a pile of bricks and a musty, cobweb-crowned tunnel that drank the lamplight like some great beast. Yellow light in hand, Hamak stepped through the portal and began slowly replacing the bricks in some facsimile of honest construction. I'm coming back, Hamak heard himself say. I've got to hide my tracks, though. Hope that makes sense. When Corpse Hands said nothing, Hamak sighed and continued his work. Wait. Right before replacing the final brick, Hamak poked his head back into the moonlit dungeon. For a moment, the porphyry moon's light made the prisoner's eyes seem a pair of gold discs. Many things become known to those willing to listen. Hamak laughed. You have a Z's own wit. Corpse Hands chuckled. I fear such beatitudes are ill spent on me. And why is that? Hamak asked as he slid the last brick into place. I am Norian, Corpse Hands replied as the moonlight fell beneath stone, leaving behind only a man, a lamp, and a dark tunnel. Norian, Hamak thought as he picked up the lamp and finally took a good look around. Curious. The tunnel had once been rectangular, now long since smoothed by dry sediment and countless cubits of water. In time, bricks gave way to hewn rock, and the pit's damp, moldy smell to something deeper, dank and dark and dreadful. Hamak pinched his nose, realizing at once what he smelled was death. The tunnel then began to turn, and Hamak paused, suddenly less sure of things. Wait, the jailer thought. He said the tunnel turns north. The pit runs east-west, and I came from the westernmost point, so the tunnel has to turn right? Looking ahead, Hamak saw the tunnel indeed turn right and breathed a sigh of relief. Even so, it turned at such an angle that after another minute, Hamak knew not whether he was facing north or still west. As the tunnel turned, so did its walls, the rough-hewn rock now supported by beams so decrepit it was a wonder they hadn't collapsed already. Surely it's not too farther, he wondered, becoming more uncertain with each step. Maybe he had been tricked. Maybe this Corpse Hands, despite all evidence suggesting otherwise, was free and stalking him down the hall, matching his steps. What if he had a co-conspirator waiting further down the passage? Hamak paused, listening for footsteps, or worse. Hearing nothing, Hamak sighed, called himself all sorts of names, and continued onwards until the path began to fork. Left? Hamak lifted his lamp from one to the other. Or right? Surely it was the left. How much had the passage already curved? Hamak turned at first to the left, but a shift in the air nearly extinguished his lamp, and Hamak chose the right instead. Yet, scarcely having taken his first step, did Hamak feel the tunnel's floor fall away beneath him. Damp soil and musty stone became his air, and at once Hamak tried to grab one of the wooden posts. His fingers find purchase, only for the beam to likewise give way, causing an avalanche of gravel to smother him from above as below. Down and down he went, sound and air and light fleeing him as the world became a blur of stone and shadow. When Hamak came to, all was dark. For a moment he thought he was dead, until his aching limbs made him reconsider. He began pulling himself off the smooth stone floor, only to yelp when he tried putting some weight on his left ankle. Broken, he cursed. Feeling around in the dark, Hamak's hands soon found the pile of silty earth that had broken his fall. He had landed against a wall of intricately carved stone, a few paces wide on this side and unknown in height. He must have fallen through the ceiling. And broken my ankle, that. How long had he been down here? A couple minutes? Maybe more? The thought then struck him that, in fact, he could very well die down here, in the dark, as war raged above, and only a taciturn inmate to know. Hamak squeezed his eyes shut, his lips finding words that echoed off the walls like a chorus of mocking devils. We give thanks to you, Our Lady of Dusk and Dawn, Hamak persisted despite their chattering, who brings justice and retribution in an equal measure. As you guide the shoots to reach the sun, please, Orphea, goddess eternal, show me the way from this place, and I will honor you with great sacrifice. When the echoes died, Hamak opened his eyes to find his prayer seemingly answered. While no four-winged angel met his gaze, from deep within the darkness shone an orb of light. Golden and unwavering as the sun, Hamak was never half as glad to see its like. Hamak crawled towards the light, first pushed by muscle, then by determination when those began to fail. Yet, even as he crawled onto a raised platform of undulating stone, the light came no closer. Hamak nevertheless pressed forward as the smooth, almost skin-like stone gave way to something else entirely. Looking up, Hamak found that the darkness had slipped away, the black abyss replaced by the blue of the bottomless sea and the gray of the earth's deepest reaches. Cavern it was, but impossibly vast, its walls made half of stone and half of dream. All around, massive, rippling columns rose towards a starless sky far above. Somewhere waves lapped against stone, quiet as the death throes of a god. The columns parted, and Hamak now beheld a map etched into the cavern floor. Wide as desire, it showed the entire world adorned by a series of pillars. Many stood erect, but many more toppled, and between them a figure, prone and examinate. Above the map, on an arc of opulent couches, reclined figures adorned in shining robes of cloth and metal. One, a torque of chained purple around their neck, dangled the censer from on high, its vapors drifting down onto the body below. The crack of stone then shook the cavern. Another, their own voice a torrent, pointed to Hamok with a singular, bony finger. Beneath hood and shadow, Hamok saw only a single glowing eye. Other shouts joined in, a chorus of avalanche and earthquake and snapping wood and wildfire, until a thunderclap resounded off the cavern's walls and the gloom retreated from before them. Beyond the arc of tiered couches lay the still banks of a great underground sea, on whose edge stood a great throne of carved marble bearing the same creviced wood-like texture as the columns. Like the cliffs of a time-clawed mountain, terraced steps lead up to its apex, on which sits a figure of majesty horrible and form maddening. The voice boomed again, and somehow Hamok knew. Hamok! He could barely speak. My name is Hamok, son of Hamid, from Green Navria. I work as a jailer. From the robed chorus came forth a sound like the chittering of sharp stones. The enthroned giant followed, thick and rumbling like the fires of the deep earth. Hamok realized they were laughing. Then he beheld the Titan's face. In one moment it was that of a serpent, the next a hawk, then the mighty dragon and savage wilder-bear. Hamok turned away, only to find the walls had drawn closer. The enthroned giant then extended a hand, their thunderous voice a fallen and terrible majesty. Hamok then saw. The throne, the columns, the couches on which these gods reclined, they were each comprised of hundreds and thousands of humans, writhing together in motionless instrumentality. Before he could scream, the shimmering walls pulled apart to reveal 1,000 gleaming eyes. The Titan spoke again, stone scraping against stone, and at once the swarm of eyes lifted Hamok into the air and pulled him close to one of the massive columns. In its mass of carved limbs, he could make out the face of 1,000 different souls. For a moment, he even thought he recognized his queen. Far below, the figure on the floor rose, turned to the throne, and knelt as Hamok felt the stone consume him.